Hello?
What's up? What's up?
Oh, there we go. I can hear you now.
Oh, I can hear you now. Yeah, my bad. It's
Oh,
been a while. I
sweet.
use this software. All right, all right. How are you, Chancy?
Good. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Like I said, thank you for this opportunity, man. I really appreciate it for your time.
Of course. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me on.
yeah. Anytime, anytime. All right. So, all right. I'm just gonna do my introduction. Yo, what is going on, guys? This type of Horn 92 here. I'm here. The history, the no self introduction. Would you like to introduce who you are?
Hey, how's it going? My name is Chancy, aka Squiddy, as some of you may or may not know. Yeah, I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh competitively, I think, for the past, decade or so, just on and off. Took a couple of breaks, but it's always been in my life. So, yeah, I'm just really excited about it. And I recently got back into the game, so traveling to some YCSs, going to do some this year as well. Very exciting stuff.
Hey, let's go, let's go. Yeah, it was crazy ever since during the pandemic, everything was remotely. It was okay, but it's like a whole completely game changer that we're able to get to play physical cards because we all know that for a fact these cards are super expensive, and end of the day, it's cool to travel, hang out with friends, and play Yu-Gi-Oh in the same time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, would you like to introduce like who you are and also like what are you like most known for the community, just in case people probably don't recognize you as a pro player?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Chancy Wigglestove. I was, I guess, very known for being like a troll in the community, especially back in the good old days when we had, Dueling Network. I used to always troll people on there. Just had like good, fun old duels that people would watch, just causing mischief, on and off. Um, yeah, I hit up a couple of YCSs. I think I got a couple of tops, 7 or 8 throughout the years, just playing certain. Well, I used to always play, I guess, meta decks, but sometimes I tried to put like a spin on them. In the past, I played Mermails with like Dragon Ice, so like taking some inspiration from the OCG and just bringing a lot of different ideas to the table. So I guess that's kind of what I've been known for, just like a silly kind of character who likes to troll and cause mischief. I think I wore like a chicken costume one time to YCS, so
Oh my gosh, I
maybe
didn't
making
know
people
about
laugh.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, how did you got Squiddy in the first place? As your as a nickname.
So I don't know if a lot of people know, but there's this site called Pojo.com, which is like a forum for card games like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic. And I used to always post on there. So back in the day, before everything got popular in Facebook and like different Discord servers, we used to always go on forums. So like back in the day, and on Pojo, I made something called Squiddy, which I actually got. I think the name Squid from my RuneScape username, which was like SquidPants24, which I got from SpongeBob because I was like a huge fan of SpongeBob back in the day. So I put like Squidward as my favorite character, so I put Squid in everything. And then from there on Pojo, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to shorten it and just make it Squiddy. So I kind of kept with that. And, that transferred over to like Dueling Network and Duelist Grounds and everything. So that's what I kind of just kept my name as.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, and thanks for sharing the story of Squiddy. Just in case you guys didn't know, come say hi to Squiddy, aka Chancy. You guys see him IRL YCS. You're gonna be traveling more events this year, correct?
Yeah. So I'm actually planning to go to YCS Lyon and then the 3v3 as well in Vegas.
Oh, okay. Are you going
Yeah.
to the 3v3 for the Vegas one or the other one?
Yes. Are you going to be at that one as well?
Yes, I'll be going to that one and the YCS 250 for LA as well.
Oh, yes, that one as well. I was planning on going,
Oh
ideally.
yeah, let's go. Hopefully we both top, both 1994 Great Smoke Round.
Yeah, I know, right? It's always a good
Yeah.
time in LA, especially. Actually, my first YCS was Long Beach in 20, I think,
Oh
11 or
yeah,
2012.
yeah, yeah. That was your
So,
first competitive event, correct?
yeah, and it was crazy because it's the biggest YCS of all time. There's like 4,000 people. I rolled up, I didn't know what to expect, and all of a sudden there's just like people everywhere. So that was kind of like very
Yeah.
mind blowing.
Yeah. At
Hmm.
first, I thought you were playing Show and Jump back in the day, but turned out I don't think you did. You did play the YCS Long Beach one. How did you do that event? If that's okay.
Yeah, so that was my first event. I always used to follow SJCs when I was a kid through Pojo and stuff, but I ended up going to that event as my first event. So what happened was it was my first year at university. So my parents like kind of gave me their credit card to spend on food and like rent and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
I used that to like book a flight and hotel to go to YCS, and they didn't even know. So I showed up and I was playing Karakuri's, and
Mhm.
but everyone's playing meta. Obviously, I wasn't used to that. You know, I'm used to playing my own locals here in Vancouver. It's kind of smaller. You can kind of play whatever you want and have a shot. And everyone's playing like Dino Rabbit, you know, windups and summon Zectors. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm kind of stifled here. I don't think I can do very well if I play Karakuri. So I'll go ahead and drop like 2K on like a Dino Rabbit deck. Never played it before. I start playing the tournament. I did relatively well. I think I was like 4-2 or 5-2. But that tournament was so long, and they weren't really prepared, obviously, because so many people, and it ended up going until like 3 a.m. I think. But the rounds, you would have like 2 hours between rounds of downtime, just because they were trying to get like all the match results in, right? So at one point, me and my friend, we went to get food because we thought we had a lot of time, and then I came back and I found out that they dropped us from the tournament because the next round started. So I was like, oh, that sucks. But they ended up being able to add us back in. Only I played someone else, and I think it was a 6 Samurai player, and then he knocked me out. So I think it was like 5-2 or something like that into 5-3. But I had so much fun. It was my first YCS, and I was like, wow, this is unlike anything I've ever seen before. It was a blast.
Yeah. I was supposed to be going to that event when I was a kid, but then after that I said, all the cards are so expensive. Like we know that like when like, we were kids or teenager, we didn't have those cards. When I look up those cards on eBay, I said, oh my god, these Rescue Rabbit going like so much. And like I say, I don't want to get destroyed. I'd rather play the best decks. And I did play Dual Network back in the day, and turned out you usually see mostly meta deck. Whoever play on that platform will convert to real life most of the time.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, you're right. The cards were very expensive. I remember Maxi was like 110 each. Doko was like 85. Rabbit was 80. Tour Guide was like 150 or something crazy. You needed like all these cards. Even Phoenix Chain was like $40, for super
I
rare.
know.
So.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and like I was surprised. Did you know it's about like those kids like driving those of somehow their parents like literally go all in? Did you know?
Yeah, it's always like the rich kids too, because they got like all the blinged out decks and they're able to go to these events.
Yeah, that's
It's a lot of fun.
Thank goodness, like Yu-Gi-Oh's not like crazy. As to today, I don't think. Maybe like if max rarity, I don't know that counts, but everything besides that's like so happy that like some cards are able to be a 4 and also getting reprints over time.
Yeah, I think the new players are very spoiled in the sense that they don't really know the real pain, the true pain of paying, like $300 for a Dark Arm Dragon or something.
Oh yeah, just survival.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your favorite event and least favorite event that you ever attend to?
My favorite, I would say, is YCS Seattle in 2012. That was my first ever top with Mermos. I think I got like top 16, and then I ended up losing to Simon He, who's playing Agents in the top cut. So that was a lot of fun. I actually met a lot of friends at that event. I played my good friend Anthony Ackroth on the bubble. So when we were both X2 in like round 9 or round 10, and then I won that match, and we ended up being super good friends throughout the past 10 years and just playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Through Rising together. And we're actually going to be on the same team in the 3v3 as well. So it's my most favorite event, I think, in that, I was able to make a lot of connections and friendships, and that led to hang out with the same people and going to different events throughout the past 10 years. So that was my favorite. Least favorite, I don't know. Honestly, I had so much fun with like all these events. I don't know if I didn't have one that was at least, I guess the Chicago, so the nationals that happened this summer that I went to. What happened was I didn't check in on Friday because I was thinking there's a long line. So I went to play some side events, and then I was like, oh, I could check in after near the end when there's no one there. And then somebody pulled the fire alarm, so we all had to leave the venue.
Oh yeah, that was
you remember that
on Friday. I wasn't there. We left half an hour after that.
So I didn't know that they reopened the hall. So I was like, oh, okay, I can come back next day and sign up. But what happened was that people actually went back in the hall, and then I was like, oh crap, I didn't register. So I got a late registration. So I got a round 1 match loss. So that really hurt. And I was playing a deck with Hungry Burger. I was playing Liebermancer. So I was like, I want to play this on stream.
No, it's really sucks. And like I also a friend of mine, Masu Williams, he also got a round 1 loss. Did not turn in his deck list on time as well.
Is that right? I didn't know Masu was still playing. I've seen him a couple of times over the years. Really good.
Masu Williams. Yeah, he played at Pasadena. He also got a round 1 loss. Singles with national championship since summer as well. And then he was thinking about dropping out since national. He literally played World in, and then he made top cut. Like I said, holy crap, that guy's crazy. Yeah.
Memory.
Yeah, that's true. What do you like about Yu-Gi-Oh? In general?
In general, well, I think it's just so exciting. You know, you get to join this community where everyone's so welcoming and accepting. You know, it's everyone's super down, chill, and down to earth.
Mhm.
I know it's like I played like in a lot of sports growing up, and it wasn't the same. Like sometimes it's like very toxic environment. Everyone's like super like egoistic. But I find that Yu-Gi-Oh in general is everyone's super welcoming. Like for example, if you go to locals, you've never been to locals before, you go there, you show up, and you can make friends. You know, and then you can hang out with them, play Yu-Gi-Oh. You can do other things as well, and everyone's super down to earth. You know, like they don't care like what you look like, what you do, what you wear. You know, like everyone's just like, hey, what's up? If you like Yu-Gi-Oh, come hang out with us. And I think that was one thing that I really liked. And then going to the YCS is being able to meet people from completely different cities and countries, even, and then just see them across different events and slowly become acquainted and become friends. I even had a friend, my friend Carthy, who lives in Switzerland. I met him online through Dueling Network, like 12 years ago, and then we finally met each other at YCS Pasadena in the past year in November. So it was like you always meet a lot of friends through this game, and you're able to share a bond through like
Mhm.
just playing cards. So.
Ye Yeah, no, I totally understand. I also like about the game because like, I personally sometimes have, like, trouble making friends, like, super awkwardly, and
Mhm.
by the time when people graduate high school or either college, like, you're gonna, like, have smaller gap of the people, and then you say, "Oh, man." And then, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, a completely whole different game changer, like, it's, like, so much good social networking, making friends, and, like, travel with them, especially, like, that's, like, a win-win, like, travel, the food, learn about the places, and have fun at the same time. That's, like, a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree. And for me too, it's like hard. I've very like before I was very introverted, and I think like playing Yu-Gi-Oh and talking to people and that made me more extroverted. I was able to come out of my shell and just have a lot of fun, make new friends. So I
Yeah,
definitely agree.
that's true. So grateful for this hobby, especially it's like expensive, but I would never forget this moment. Like every event we always go, I will always remember. I always write down like what happened on that certain day.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. How old are you, if that's okay asking?
I actually just turned 30, so I feel super old now.
Oh,
Like, it's
dang.
funny because you see the Yu-Gi-Oh players, like, back when I was a kid, I was, like, 16, 17, go to locals, everyone was around that age, right? And then slowly, even at the YCSs, people were 19, 20 in their 20s, and nowadays, a lot of people are in their mid-20s, late 20s, like, 30s, so it's,
Mhm.
like it's nice seeing the entire community grow up. Like, even in 2006, Nats Boy '06, Austin Coleman, he won nationals, he's only 11.
Dang, that's
In
crazy.
2006. So, and nowadays it's like it's crazy. You think that 11-year-old could win like a national event or YCS is really like almost unheard of, right? So it's kind of
Yeah.
neat to see like we're all growing up over time with the game. So
Yeah. And mention about it, like, I'm so happy this game can be like any age, I believe so. I believe it was kids
Mhm.
at first, and then over time it's got expanded. Like sure, the game's really fun and easy, but I feel like it's kind of complicated because like there's so much ruling. I feel like it kind of like kind of progress over time. I feel like it's not a kids card game. Well, it can be, but I feel like the ruling so much. What's your thoughts on that? If that's okay
Yeah,
asking.
I definitely agree. Like the game has definitely gotten a lot more complicated. Even when I took a break, like my last YCS top before the Sprite one in YCS Niagara was
Mhm.
2017. It was like Zodiac format. And the game was a lot easier. You summon a Zodiac, you overlay, make Dryden do your play, set some traps. But then I came back and it was like a bunch of link combos. You can like make any two monsters into like a Phoenix or something. And it was like, what the heck? There's like so many lines of play now that we didn't have before. And like, thinking back even further, like 2006, 2007, it was like almost like Go Control and Chaos. You're just like summoning a monster or like T set pass. It's more like grindy, right? But nowadays, it's like you got to link summon, tier elements. There's like a billion different things going on. You can't keep track of the names. There's like beastos flying around, the hand traps. And you're like, what the heck is going on? So I definitely think the game's gotten so much more complicated, which is a good thing, I guess, in general, because, you obviously want a more skillful player to win as
Mhm.
opposed to losing to luck or something. So it's pretty crazy, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Like the formats like getting power creeps and like
Mhm.
I do support
Cherish.
the company like that is their smart strategy and like just like start investing and like it is complicated, but I felt like it's good as a player. Like I kind of like want to learn so it can like make me think outside the box more in like not just like in the game in life in general as well. Um, but yeah, it is crazy. Do you think that like the game will like probably change like a faster pace in the time being or not quite sure?
I I think so. It's hard to imagine, right? Because back in the day, 2013, we thought Dragon Rulers were like, wow, this deck is absolutely busted. But now we have tier limits, and it's like Dragon Rulers don't even look like scary at all. Like they had like a no ban list tournament in the OCG, a couple of them. Tier limits are still the best deck somehow with like 3 of everything, like 3 Graceful, 3 Pot of Greed. Tier limits are like still the best deck. It's crazy. I couldn't believe it. Just when you think that they can't surprise you more, they somehow go around and do that with like the new archetypes.
That's true.
So
Mention about Dragon Ruler. What's your thoughts about the Hypernova coming out since cashier? Going to be really good since they're gonna like zone lock you and shenanigan.
oh yeah, this set is absolutely nuts. I was reading all the cards. There's so many good support for like different archetypes. There's like insects, there's photon support, there's like generators, there's like so many cool new things, obviously the cash tier and whatnot. But I like how they had a lot of support for the other archetypes as well, like the ones that you kind of don't see. And there's some good cards for it. The only thing is, like, I read a bunch of the cards and they're all graveyard interaction based. And then you go and turn around and look at these Shizu cards and you're like, oh, darn, I probably can't play any of these cards because you just get shut down by the best deck in the format. But that being said, I think the Cashier cards are pretty busted. Like you were talking about the locking out zones and stuff. It seems pretty scary, but I think it might be a little overrated because I'm looking at the OCG and obviously their tier limits have gotten hit on like 2 different ban lists or 3 even. The first one they got like 2 Havness and 1 Field Spell, and that was still the best deck competing with Kashtira at full power. And now it's like they got hit again, and they're still like somewhat the best deck with like 1 Rhinoheart, 1 Field, 1 of each of the Ishizus, and then like 1 Shirin. So I almost feel like the cash tier deck still can't really compete against the tier limits deck if the format becomes solved. But that's just me looking at the OCG and trying to make a comparison.
Yeah, no, I understand. But I really, personally, I kind of like when it involved, but I kind of miss old formats, kind of like slow pace, like whoever like win a dice roll, it doesn't matter. Like going second, you can still win. Like kind of like the grind game. Do you prefer the long grind game, or you like the way it is at the moment?
I think, yeah, I definitely agree with you where there's like a bit of a grind, so there's some skill. In this current format, sometimes there can be blowouts. If a tier limits player just opens the absolute nuts, gets like 2 shufflers engraved, like Dragostapelia, like Elf and all that jazz, Rukalos and like Setsulik. It's hard to win, especially if you're not playing tier limits. It's like, how do I beat this board? I can interact with them. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Somebody said you had to play on your opponent's turn. Now that is true.
Yeah, definitely.
The game will become so fast as it soon feels slow. That is true, and we're here forever. That is true. Depending like how fast it is. I personally don't want to play Yu-Gi-Oh for the rest of my life, but like maybe like stop in 30s, but who knows? But yeah. So, do you usually play test online or in person? Like good performance, do well in events.
Yeah, I usually play strictly online just because locals is a little far from me. I usually have to like commute like an hour or like 40, half an hour to an hour. And I'm always lazy. So I'm like, I don't really want to go there. But I sometimes still go. It's a lot better to play in real life because you actually do get like things that you can't really test online. For example, the time is one thing you can't really time online. Being able to sit across the table from somebody and like, control your nerves and like deal with a situation where like there's a lot of tense situations and like shuffling cards. Obviously, that's something I think you should definitely practice in real life. But for me personally, traditionally, I've just been like online, just like quickly testing, just because I find it's a lot faster. And as you get older, you have work or school or whatever, life gets in the way, so you don't really always have the time to go out and go to locals. So I've always been online, but I think if you have access to locals, definitely doing both would be the best.
Yeah, that's true. I personally like online as well. Because usually when like you're playing against those player high rating or ranking, one of those players will be playing most of the time in events, like probably in the 90% range. That's what I think. But everyone there to play to see what work, what doesn't work, and just in case before buying the cards, because like I personally don't like when people buy cards and test because like that's okay, but I feel like that's like down money down the drain unless you're super wealthy, and that's a completely different story.
Yeah, absolutely. And like buying cards is expensive. It's keeping up. The ban list isn't gonna hit your deck. You gotta buy new cards, and it's not easy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. How many events top do you have in total? Do you know on top of your
I
head?
think 7, maybe 8, but around there. I kind of lost track just because it's been spread across the past 10 years or so. But mostly from like West Coast events because those are the ones I have access to. Obviously, living in Vancouver, Canada is on the West Coast. So, but I do try to go to like some of the East Coast ones in the past for like nationals and like some of the bigger ones. So I think it's around 7 tops, if not mistaken, for
Yeah,
license.
that's true. That's true. Mention about Canada. Just in case the people who never been to Canada, especially myself, there's like certain part. What do
Yep.
you prefer people to do in Canada besides check out the Niagara Fall?
It really depends where you go. So if you go on the East Coast, obviously there's Niagara Falls in Toronto area.
Mhm.
Montreal is really good as well because they have like a lot of different things that other parts of Canada don't have. Obviously, being like a French dominant speaking province. So in Quebec, they have like poutine, which is like fries with gravy and like cheese curds. This is like a big thing that I don't know if they have that in the States, but it's like a big thing that we have up here in Canada. In Vancouver, it's like very similar to Seattle because we're like kind of next to each other. It's like a 2 hour drive even. But in Vancouver, it's a lot warmer. Like it's not as cold, obviously, as the East Coast. So we have a lot of, I guess, like a lot of outdoorsy stuff. If you like hiking, definitely like come here to go hiking. Also, winter sports, so like snowboarding, skiing, those are really, really big, especially in BC because we have the mountains. So if you guys have never been to Whistler, definitely check that one out. It's a bit of a tourist trap. It's very expensive. It's like $250 for 1 day lift pass. So
Oh
try
my
to
god.
get your stuff in advance. Yeah. So you can kind of like save on those costs.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I'll look at in the future. I've never been to Canada, but I heard it's super nice, and I heard the taxes over there is super insane.
Yeah, it's very crazy. Like the different brackets, you could pay like 30% to almost 50% of your salary into taxes. So yeah, it's not ideal for that. It's definitely a lot more expensive, I find, relative. Obviously, like if you're American, you can change to Canadian dollars. You get a like a 20% bump just because like one USD goes like 1.20 Canadian dollars. But relative to what we make and what we're buying, like the food and stuff, it's a lot more expensive in Canada, I would say, I find. A lot of times when I go to the States, one thing I love is the food. The food is way better in the States and a lot cheaper too. So here, like if you want to buy a burrito downtown, I think it's like $15 plus upwards for like a
Oh my
burrito. And then you go
god.
to like LA, you buy a burrito for like $7 or $8 and like, hey.
Yeah,
So,
I'd rather pay for the $7 or $8.
exactly. Yeah. And it's better too.
True, true, true. So what made you use like cool accessories such as the Spellground 1994 calculator case and max rarity? Since I do respect everyone, I personally want to get into that stuff like the pro players since I do matter the game and like the game as much. I want to hear your
Mhm.
thoughts on that.
Yeah, I guess this is like a big thing, especially for the old, like the old guard, the people that used to play Yu-Gi-Oh competitively back in the day, is really, having like those accessories match. I think it was this one pro player named Adam Korn who originally brought that to light, the Spellgrounds,
Mhm.
in like 07, 08, like during Shonen Jumps, he won like a bunch of those championships, and he would use them. So Spellgrounds, I guess, are essentially they were mats that were made by I can't remember the company.
Caprice team.
Yeah, Kelsic Brain Games, I think. And
Yeah.
they originally made it for Magic the Gathering. But,
Mhm.
after Adam Korn started using them and topping, everyone started, all the Yu-Gi-Oh players were like, oh, I want to be like, the pro players. We're going to start using them. So everyone started using them. Same with the graphic calculators as well. It's like so overkill. You don't really need a graphing calculator for like calculating life points, right? Like, come on, guys.
Mhm.
But me, I kind of just went with that flow as well. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to try these out. And you know what? Those mats are actually a lot better than the felt ones. The felt ones, you kind of have
It
to dig your
is.
nails in to flip a trap or something, or you
Mhm.
slide them all the way down and flip them.
There's
But like,
nothing compete like that original.
mhm.
Yeah,
And the Spellgrind, you just flip it over, right? Like, you know what I mean? Because you have one, and it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah. Two of them, two of them.
oh, you got two. Damn,
Yeah,
kind of like the
yeah,
one. But I was like, this is the most comfortable mat I've ever used. And obviously, being comfortable, with the things you use is really important because confidence, I think, is a really big thing at the competitive level of this game.
yeah.
Obviously, being confident in your plays, being confident in the things that you have in your deck allows you to play a lot better and not make misplays because everyone's going to misplay in an event.
That's
Believe
true.
it or not, like even the best players are going to misplay at least once in the tournament. It's inevitable because you're playing like a 10-hour long day. You're going to get tired, you're going to get dehydrated. Like you're going to get
Burnouts.
like you're going to misplay at some point.
That's true.
So I think like having confidence in like the things, it's almost like, if you're confident about like clothes you wear or whatever, you feel good in your own skin. I think like same with like your mat and stuff, having confidence in that helps a lot. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true. For the spell ground, do you usually I hear people they crumble it up the 1994 gray and the others, or do you
Mhm.
usually fold it as just regular? Just curious.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to crumple it up because I used to fold mine and put it in a bag, but then it would leave lines, like fold
Oh,
lines
cream.
on it, and I could
Yeah.
never get them out.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
So I
thought
just
you.
crumple it now and throw it in.
Yeah, I should probably do that in the future.
Mhm.
Um, Let's see. What do you do for a living, if that's okay asking?
So I work at a software company. I was in like doing like some product management stuff, kind of in that realm. I actually just got laid off last month, so I've been chilling for the past month, just playing video games and Yu-Gi-Oh. But I would like to. I've started job hunting again now. This is the new year, so sending out my resume, seeing what we can do there. I think, yeah, obviously having a job that you like is super important too, and then Yu-Gi-Oh on the side because like you don't want to put all your beans into the Yu-Gi-Oh basket, and then
That's
that can
true.
be hard later on.
That is true. Always life before Yu-Gi-Oh.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so the interesting question somebody said, what made you put your cards upside down when you play against your opponent? Besides,
Yeah, that's actually something a lot of people ask me. I don't know. I used to be like really troll. I wanted to like mess with people. So I was like, you know what? How can every time I was playing or doing something, I'd always think, how can I make something different than what other people are doing to like kind of throw them off? So, for example, when I used to play Halo as a kid, I always used the Alien, the Covenant, and everyone hated that because they would play the humans, and I'd just be like this huge dinosaur alien walking around. And same with Yu-Gi-Oh! I was like, how can I make my stuff different and like troll people? And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put my cards upside down. So one time I did that and I started sleeving all my cards inside like upside down as well. So I could just hold them upside down. I hold them in my hand upside down and everything upside down, just like look at the pictures. And it got to a point where like Link Monsters came out and I started doing that. And that kind of like threw me off because I thought that Ningirsu pointed down for like 3 months, but it actually points up. But I put it upside down. So I was cheating for like a couple of locos until somebody finally pointed out. They're like, hey, that points up. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to put my Link Monsters upside down anymore, but I'll put everything else upside down so I don't misrepresent the game state.
That's true. That's true.
Mhm.
So mention about when you start play the game. When you first playing competitive, did you start doing upside down, or when did you start doing that?
I think, yeah, a couple of events in, maybe my second or third YCS. I think maybe the Mermel one I topped. I might have done that. I was just like, some of my future matches are still on like the blog. So if you Google and then like look up the images that they took, you can see like when I started putting stuff upside down, I guess. But I just like rolled with it. I'm like, oh, this is funny.
Yeah, I like the way like you make the community like very interact. Like I said, like oh my god, that's so cool. Like I never seen anyone does that. I don't know if that's a legal thing. I'm pretty sure that is legal to do that. And
Yeah, at least the judges have been cool with it. But fun fact, I actually started playing Magic the Gathering, and I did that in Magic, and then I got a couple of warnings from the judges. They're like, "Sir,
oh
please turn your cards around."
dang,
I was like, "Oh, okay." Which is
yeah,
funny because in Magic, there's no zones. Like you can spawn a bunch of tokens, and it gets so messy. It doesn't matter where you put stuff. So I was like, that's kind of ironic in that like there's no guidelines for the zones in Magic, but then in Yu-Gi-Oh there are like, and I could still put them upside down, but in Magic I can't. So.
true. And also your opponent can like read faster since like it is the other way around as well.
Yeah, a lot of my opponents have been like, "Oh, that's so generous of you. You're letting me read." And I was like, "Yeah." Also, just playing them upside down, anyways.
True, true. How often do you play test before big tournaments that you usually do well?
That's a good question. I don't actually play every day just because, like, when I had work and stuff, it's just so busy and just like didn't really have time. So I would more play on weekends. But usually before an event, at least like a month before, I start trying to play. Um, Other thing is like theory. So, obviously having like a friend circle or like a Discord group that you can bounce ideas off of is really, really important because I find that the game is also, it's like, it's a good chunk of playtesting, deck building, but also like theorizing. So, like, what, cards are good in the meta, what cards can beat like the best deck in the meta, just like bouncing ideas off of your friends. Like, hey, what about this card? What about this deck? What about this idea? Like, a lot of times that's really important too. So, you can kind of think about it in your head and then apply that to playtesting later. So, that's what I usually do, at least a month before I start talking to my friends. And then we log on DB to play like a couple of games, maybe a couple of games in rated too. And you can't always play rated because sometimes the cards aren't released yet, right? Like obviously Photon Hypernova, you can't really, play before the first YCS without playing with your friends. So it can be a challenge sometimes.
That's true. That's true. What is your favorite deck all time?
I would say Mermail, so water, because I have like I think 3 YCS tops with that deck. It was just so fun and so broken. It was one of the first decks that kind of defied the traditional logic of Yu-Gi-Oh! In the sense that you're just getting super huge pluses off the costs of cards. So like you're discarding a Mermail for like Mermail, Abyss Pike. You're discarding like an Atlantean Dragoon, and then you're adding another card with the discard. That was almost like one of the first kind of cards that allowed you to almost do that, I think, in an archetype that was just like, it was just so relentless. You summon like a Gen X Undead, and you get a free +2. You add like something off the Dragoon and then the controller. And I don't think anything else in Yu-Gi-Oh has ever allowed you to get strict, like easy pluses just off of that with no drawback. So
That's true. That's true. Like
yeah.
Marvel's so overpowered. I hate that deck. When did you hand loop your opponent before when that was a thing?
Oh yeah, you could also hand loop, yeah, moving Glacier and like, oh, it was crazy. I was like, wow. But that being said, I think windup at the time was at times better with Shockmaster, but
That's
people
true.
still played Murmo because it was new.
And Mermo, the max rarity. Oh my, it looks so pretty.
Oh, it looks great. Alti everything, right?
That's true. Do you have a favorite card? Any
My favorite card would be Mirror Force. I sided that deck, I think, in the most, like probably like 5 or 6 of the events that I topped. I don't know why. I just love that card. It's so iconic. It catches people off guard. I even played it in like a Dragon Ruler format in my spell books. Just like when they try to attack over your Dragon or something, you just like flip Mirror Force.
Oh dang, that's
Yeah.
crazy. I didn't expect people to play that. Like, were you the only one who played Mirror Force during
I
that?
think one of the only ones, yeah, at the time. I know some OCG players might have played it. I got a lot of inspiration from them as well, just looking at, their Twitter, like the blog, Road to the King, older sites like that. And I was like, Mirror Force? Oh, I love this card. Anime iconic.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also just in case if anyone that's still watching the live stream, if you guys see Squiddy, aka Chancy, you got Mirror Force, want him to sign, let him know. That's his favorite card or Mermaid.
Yeah, you bounce it back.
Do you have a favorite Yu-Gi-Oh player?
Favorite Yu-Gi-Oh player
Or inspiring?
I love like a lot of the pros that are like in the scene right now. Obviously, back in the day, Patrick Hoban, he was like on a tear.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this guy is
Yeah.
super good. He always like innovated too. He's like one of the things like playing new decks. Like he's playing like the Dino Draco, or not Dino, but the Draco Slayer Zoo before like everyone's playing pure and stuff. And he's just like innovating, playing Soul Charge obviously at 3 before everyone else did. I thought that was also that was always something that was very inspirational. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I actually got a chance to play him at a couple of tournaments, so that was always really exciting. Yeah, a lot of other players, some of the Euro players like Simon He, when he was like winning, like going first place undefeated in Swiss, all these events. Yeah, there's so many different players that I think is great. And obviously like the good old players from back in the day, like team like Dub K Dad, Asian Persuasion, some of those guys that used to always do the Yugi Tube back in the day before it was popular. I always used to watch them and I'd be like huge fans. So it's kind of surreal going to an event and actually seeing them in person. You're like, holy crap.
You say like, oh my gosh, like oh my god, that person is actually so real. Like literally, like you're talking to like an AI for a second, but as a joke. But you say,
I know, right? And you see them in real life, and you're like, oh my gosh, sign my cards, please.
And then you say like, oh, when they record themselves, you thought they would be taller than you, but turned out like they're kind of like medium or short, in a way. But not saying that particular.
Yeah, it's always like weird too, like because you only see them across the screen, so you don't know like what they actually look like, and then you see them in the red, they're like, oh,
yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh, somebody said Canadians always have spend more time derealizing. I think that's worked best for me. That's actually true. Like you guys have like a lot of good players, like Jesse Cotton, anyone else I can think of top of my head.
Yeah, and all those guys are from Toronto as well, because Vancouver we have a super small scene, but in Toronto and like the East Coast, it's really really big. Obviously, like the Bolito brothers as well, Dale Bolito. Those back in the day.
Yeah,
I don't know if the newer players know them, but those guys were like absolute goats. They were winning so many events, national champions and just topping everywhere. And I think Dale still plays here and there. Like he came back a couple of years ago pre-COVID.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I really think national. I really want to see him like I love Lightstorm. Like to be honest, that's one of my favorite decks. And like I say, oh my gosh, I really hope I see them. They're pretty cool, and I started watching them recently as well.
Yeah, this is before the day, but yeah, we had a lot of good players in Canada for sure.
Yeah, that's true. One last question, and then going to be done for the podcast. So would you say the game would be either luck, skill, or both? And I want to hear your thoughts on that.
I think definitely a little bit of both. Obviously, there's some luck involved, but there's definitely more skill. Like, we were talking about before, like, not misplaying in the tournament, right? The least amount of misplays you can reduce that to is obviously skill. The better chance you have of winning. We see like the same names obviously topping and winning these events in the past couple of YCSs. So obviously there's an element of skill that I would say outfavors luck to some extent. Obviously, it is kind of lucky, you know, like if someone goes Havnus, Mills, like 2 names, and like a celiac, well, I can't do anything there. But you know, like the skill at some point with the deck building, I think those two are really, really big. At some point, that just like allows you to outgrind the luck and the chance aspect and actually start winning. So definitely like the deck building and the skill is really, really important.
And don't misplay because that will cost you game as well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all. Like I say, thank you for you guys watching. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, turn on post notification, and if you guys want to check out my friend Chancy, aka Squiddy, YouTube channel, I'll put down in the description. He make Yu-Gi-Oh content. And do you want to say anything else before ending this podcast?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me on here, Robin. Super excited. I will be, I think, at the next YCS Leon. This is my first one. Thanks to my friend Cynthia who made that happen. So shout out to her. We're all gonna go there together and just like see if we can play in the event and have some fun. So yeah, if you thanks again for having me on this, and definitely check out my YouTube. I'll post some content there as well.
Yeah, and looking forward to seeing you. Like you're a really cool guy to talk to. I like talking to you. Like everything I say, oh my gosh, I really hope I meet Squiddy. That guy's so cool. And like on Dueling Network back in the day, I didn't know what you look like, and then ever since you did a face review, I think either YCS Long Beach or YCS Anaheim, then you top. I said, oh my gosh, it's actually a Squiddy.
It was like so long ago. I love it. But
All
hey,
right.
I'm sure I'll see you at the next YCS in the 3v3, right? So
Yeah, and
be
I'll
out
be
there.
going to the YCS 250 for LA as well.
Nice. I'll see you there as well then.
All right, talk to you guys later. Stay safe, please.
Ciao for now, guys.
Thank you. All righty, thank you.